Tusk said that talks will be difficult, but well-intentioned.
The EU-27 does not and will not pursue a punitive approach. Brexit in itself is already punitive enough.
Despite an attempt to open talks with a friendly tone, UK Prime Minister Theresa May caused confusion in the wording of her letter to Tusk, triggering her country's withdrawal from the EU. EU officials took offence from a phrase that appeared to suggest the UK would withdraw its European security commitments if it was not offered good trade terms. However, UK leaders were quick to clarify that the country's cooperation to ensure European security was never in question.
The UK's commitment to the defence and the security of this region of Europe is unconditional, and it is not some bargaining chip in any negotiations that may be taking place elsewhere in this capital.
The letter also requested that the EU agreed to run trade talks alongside exit negotiations. While this request was initially rejected by France's President François Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel, Tusk said in Malta that the EU would consider simultaneous trade talks if significant progress had been made on the exit deal.
At least 24 people were killed by a suicide bomber in northwest Pakistan. The attack coming in the town of Parachinar, where a car was detonated near a Shiite mosque and a market. A breakaway group from the Pakistani Taliban, Jamaat al-Ahrar, has claimed responsibility. Pakistan's army had claimed to clear the rest of region of militants, but violence has continued. The area has been former strongholds of both Taliban and Sunni militants. Dozens of people in Venezuela blocked the capital's main expressway, protesting the Supreme Court's decision to strip the National Assembly of its powers, many calling it a coup against an elected body. The opposition controlled the assembly, but joining the protest was an ally of the ruling socialists, Attorney General Luisa Ortega, blasting the Supreme Court for its weekend move to assume control over the assembly. President Nicolas Maduro's approval ratings have plummeted to just over 20% amid a fourth straight year of recession.
Venezuela's opposition is taking the fight to the streets. It says Nicolas Maduro is lurching towards a dictatorship after the pro-government Supreme Court moved to take power away from the opposition-controlled legislature.
What other proof does the international community need to come to the conclusion that in Venezuela we have a government that doesn't abide by the constitution? In Venezuela there is a dictatorship.
The Supreme Court had already shot down most of the National Assembly's powers since the opposition won control in 2015. Thursday's takeover effectively means that Venezuela's three branches of government are all controlled by Maduro's ruling party. The court justified the move by accusing the parliament of contempt for swearing in three politicians that had earlier been suspended over alleged electoral fraud. Foreign pressure is also piling up on Maduro, with neighboring countries calling on both sides to restart talks.
We call on the country's authorities to do whatever it takes to resume dialogue and guarantee human rights and democracy.
Both the United States and the European Union have also condemned the Supreme Court's decision.
And staying in South America, negotiations to end 10 days of labor unrest in French Guiana have resumed. France's Overseas Minister Erica Barrette has tried to calm protesters. She, along with the French Interior Minister Matthias Fekl, arrived Wednesday. Workers in several public sectors are demanding better pay and social benefits. Many blame France for low investment. Of all of France's territories, it suffers the highest homicide rate as well as a crippling rate of unemployment. In Australia, Cyclone Debbie has been downgraded, but risks remain. A second body was found while tens of thousands of people were evacuated from two states. Powerful gusts and torrential rain have complicated efforts to rescue people from floods as high as 3 meters. Luke Schrigo has more.
As far as the eye can see, Queensland underwater. On Tuesday and Wednesday this week, the eastern Australian state found itself lashed by a cyclone, and the damage is only now becoming apparent. The flooding left huge numbers of people stranded and in need of rescue, from vehicles clustered at points above the water to farm animals and even airstrips where some aircraft rested on floats or had to be rushed to safety on a nearby embankment. Local residents have had to leave however they can, taking help wherever it comes, but the situation is difficult. Hundreds of rescue workers are out in force doing what they can, but conditions in certain areas mean they're the only ones who can help and are badly overstretched. The suffering is widespread, and it's likely the final cost will be high.
Just lost everything, mate. My caravan's underwater, my whole home is gone. So a lot of other people.
Devastated. Got no insurance, so I don't know what I'm going to do.
That may just be the beginning for locals' problems, with authorities issuing warnings over the presence of Australia's deadly wildlife in the floodwater, such as snakes or crocodiles. One area even saw a shark washed up several kilometres away from the ocean.
That's it for now. Please stick around. Up next, Eye on Africa with my colleague Rochelle.
We are journalists, and normally you have